Hey, what's up guys? We're back from the second closed beta, and it looks like we already have more breakdown videos to do, Mir.
Yeah, recently on Capcom TV, we got some footage of the new characters, and well, although the footage wasn't the best, I have to admit, there's a lot of things that we learned from it.
Yeah, it was pretty painful to watch, even with dynamic controls didn't save them. But at least we got new footage. So we're kind of lagging behind here, Mir. We have the new Twitter clips as well for JP and Marisa we haven't covered. So let's start with that, and we'll combine that with the Capcom TV footage. So if you guys are new around here or you missed any of our previous breakdowns, we covered everything up to that point already on the channel. So be sure to check those videos out if you did. Okay, so let's start with JP on the Twitter footage. So we'll go through this in order of the sequences. The first thing we see is JP setting up Departure behind Ken. And then he does a 2-hit target combo, and then he cancels that into a fireball, and then the Departure detonates and we see the thorn hit Ken afterwards. So I guess the first thing is that JP has many projectiles, so it's kind of hard to distinguish which one is which, but we think this fireball here is the one that belongs to the shadow minion one, Mir. Where the minion swipes while going alongside the ground.
Right, exactly. We had seen that before in the trailer where it goes low and hits at Ken's legs. And this one we see that it seems like to hit mid. And later on we're going to see that he also has an overhead variant of this.
I think that's really crazy because he has a projectile that can't be blocked. And then he has another projectile that can hit low, mid, or overhead. There's a lot of mix-up from range. Makes JP really distinct in this game.
Right. It seems that he's more of a tricky setup heavy character almost, because as we can see with the Departure, right, that is also a setup move, and he can combo off of it and get conversions if you don't block successfully. So I'm sure that there's gonna be a lot of situations where he can just put you in the blender from pretty far away.
Yeah, and we also noticed that the Departure detonates the spike without JP doing any animation, pretty much hinting us that it's on a timer.
Right, especially because right after we see that JP is able to detonate it early by inputting something, probably the same input that he uses for the Departure itself. And after that, again, we see his ability to teleport to one of these rifts. Right. Instead of detonating them. And that probably is, again, a different input. It reminds me a little bit of Menat, how she can throw out the orb, and then doing the same input recalls the orb, or she can do another input again to get the soul spark that is only available when the orb is out.
So that means if JP has a short amount of time to use the Departure, whether to teleport or to detonate it, you can't just like set it full screen away, wait for the opponent to get close, and then just teleport when you need to, you know? Like, you can't just use the teleport as an escape tool.
Right, it seems that it's more meant for offense. A way to lock down the opponent and push a mix-up.
So back to the sequence where he teleports to the Departure instead. After he teleports, he hits Ken with looks like a jumping heavy punch, and then he does a 2-hit target combo, cancelled into the OD Chernobog, that's that swipe with the staff, and then he does his level 1 and combos into it.
Right, the interesting part about this target combo that we see right here is that we actually did see part of this in the original trailer. It seems to be part of a 3-hit target combo. And in the original trailer, we didn't see the first hit, and in this one, we don't see the last one. And it's interesting because the last hit appears to be an overhead, based on what we've seen, which would make sense because since the target combo is cancelable right before that hit, JP could cancel into his low fireball and catch you low. If you're, for example, just stand blocking without trying to react.
It's funny too, Mir, because you predicted this from watching the first trailer and you were right. So he does get a mix-up with this target combo, even on block, it seems, hey?
Yeah, I'm curious as to how safe it is. Obviously, the overhead, I would assume that it is unsafe. But maybe the low fireball is pretty safe to attempt.
So we can see the OD Chernobog causes a small wall splat, and that's what allows the easy juggle into the level 1. Which is a really nice, and if you didn't go into level 1, that'd be good too, because you'd be able to set up Departure again and control the screen.
Right, and I would imagine that this move has different juggles based on how far you are from the corner, a little bit like Ryu's OD donkey kick, where you have to adjust your combo based on the range. So maybe when JP is closer, he gets to juggle into some other special move or maybe a normal. In general, it's a nice thing to have an OD move that gives you an easy juggle into your level 1.
I wonder if you'll be able to raw drive rush like near the corner and then do a sequence from there. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's very possible.
Okay, so let's jump to the Capcom TV, the newest footage now. Let's talk about some of the interesting points during that match. So the first thing is we see the other fireball that we're talking about now, the unblockable one. JP throws it out. Now, we know for sure this is unblockable, guys, because one, there's the audio leak, and then looking back at the original trailer footage, we actually see Ken walking backwards, like Capcom's showing us that it's unblockable. We can also tell that it's a different fireball mirror because of the animation of JP.
Right, and we see that the startup and the recovery is much longer than the normal fireball, which means that if you're not careful with this and you use it from the wrong distance, someone could jump in on you and punish you really hard for this. As we actually see in the footage, Marisa does a jump in and even whiffs the jump in, and she still is able to punish counter JP.
It's so cool, the animation, just seeing JP like grasp with his glowing hand, you know? I would imagine that Capcom would want you to know when playing against a JP which fireballs which is immediately, right? If this one's unblockable.
I'm sure that the animation at the very beginning is going to be a little bit difficult to tell apart, but you should still be able to react right before it hits you, which is probably what they want you to do. Especially if it is a true grab, you would be able to avoid it by jumping. Even, you know, your pre-jump frames are throw invulnerable after all.
What do you think the strength differences are? Do you think maybe the strengths are set ranges?
It's difficult to say because since they're using dynamic controls, I would assume that it's always using the same strength. So I don't know, maybe the speed of the projectile is different based on the strength, but the startup is also different. So maybe one of the versions is a little bit safer to attempt, but the projectile travels slower and as such it's harder to grab the opponent.
I'm curious about the OD version as well.
Right. That could be a throw that leads to a combo, you know?
Yeah. The next part about the match I want to talk about, Mira, is what looks like a standing medium kick, and then he cancels into a normal turnabout. And then we see the unblockable fireball again, but full screen. You can see this goes really far. And that standing medium kick looks pretty good too.
Yeah, it's not very fast, but JP is quite tall, so it seems to have impressive reach, especially for something that is cancelable. And if it combos into the turnabout reliably, it could be a very good counter poke. I'm not sure if you're able to avoid this throw immediately, but if it is a true one, then I would assume that jumping would always be the correct answer.
I would hope so. That'd be broken, but I would also imagine that it's going to create situations that even if you jump, you're screwed.
Yeah, I can imagine stuff like the departure is set on you, and then you do the unblockable fireball, and they have to jump, but they get hit by the departure instead.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be so dumb. So cheap. Okay, the last part of the match here, Mir, we see the 2-hit target combo again. Cancel the Chernobog. And then it seems after the Chernobog hits, it like perfectly sets up the opponent for one mix-up attempt full screen. And in this case, it automatically does a meaty overhead fireball, which hits. And then JP tries to do an unblockable fireball right after.
Yeah, the overhead fireball in that situation doesn't lead to anything aside from just a little bit of damage. But still, if you are fighting against a character that is able to throw out fireballs, especially if the mid one has a good startup and recovery, it might be annoying to get chipped at your health, you know, from far away like that. It reminds me a lot of Noob Saibot from Mortal Kombat.
Yes. I mentioned Mortal Kombat 2 last time. Like, man, fireballs where you have to block, like, up or down is it's pretty crazy in Street Fighter.
Well, at least we know that it's something unique to JP and it's something that we haven't seen before, so that's good to see. Of course, in the footage we see some new moves that we hadn't seen before, but most of these are just random normals that the developers are getting by just pressing buttons. So there's a bunch of jumping attacks and some standing attacks, but nothing too, you know, exciting, I guess.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way about JP I did before. You're gonna be a pretty devious player with him. These setups, they look really annoying. His zoning is like on another level, it looks like, this game.
Yeah, I'm curious if his defense is gonna be particularly weak because he has so much presence from full screen. Maybe he'll be the first character without an invulnerable reversal.
I'm curious about that too. Okay, moving on, Mir, it's time to return to Italy. We're gonna talk about Marisa again. So first, once again, let's talk about her new Twitter clip. And the first thing we see is the 2-hit target combo again into the normal version of Gladius. And we can see that the normal version just knocks down the opponent with one punch.
We also see the blade shoot out of the Gladius, right? And I wonder if it is an actual projectile or if it only comes out, on hit or something like that. Maybe it doesn't have an actual hitbox, because a character like this with a projectile that travels that fast seems really good otherwise.
That'd be so crazy. I think it only comes out on hit. Now we see the Gladius again, but this time Marisa charges it and it armors and absorbs Manon's attack, and then does a follow-up punch afterwards.
Right, this is what we saw in the trailer as well. In that situation, it broke through Drive Impact with a single hit. Mm-hmm. And we saw the same follow-up as well, which I would assume it just happens on hit when you connect with the charge Gladius.
The punch was so devastating, Mir, that some people thought this was her super.
Yeah, I guess the cinematic hit at the end, we were seeing it in the original trailer shown with other specials, so it made sense for it to be a special, and it was mentioned in the blog as well. But talking about this move, I wanted to mention something else that I accidentally noticed while looking at this footage. It seems that it's a down input.
No. I was so salty when you pointed this out to me, Mir. I hate down input so much.
Remember that so far in the game, as far as the official Capcom classification, I guess, we don't have an easy character, right? Everyone's medium or hard. So I wonder if Marisa is going to be the first easy character, and maybe that's why she has less complicated motion, or at least less complicated to a beginner.
A million attacks with no input overlap. I just want to point out one more time that the armor that Marisa has is upper body armor, because I was pointing out in the blog.
Right, so it's very reminiscent of Zangief's sustaining heavy punch from Street Fighter V, for example.
Now the next part, we see a new move, and this is really interesting. We think this is the Phalanx. She does the OD Phalanx into the level 2. The reason we think this is a Phalanx is because we have one audio leak that says Phalanx from above, and I guess it's history lesson time.
Oh yeah? The thing that's interesting about this is that the Phalanx is it's a military formation, and it's about soldiers being close together with shields and pole weapons fighting information. So I'm not sure where the coming from the sky part came from.
It's from Troy, Mir. Brad Pitt jumps up out of the Phalanx and attacks some soldier.
I don't know how historically accurate that movie is, but I don't think it is very much. But another thing that's interesting about this move is that it doesn't seem particularly fast, but it does cover quite a bit of ground. Mm-hmm. Could probably go over a lot of attacks, and I'm curious if the OD version is somehow plus on block or at least safe. The fact that it's slow doesn't really matter, because if you try to drive impact it, you just get whacked instead, because it is another move that breaks drive impact.
Right, so we know special move wise, the Charge Gladius and the OD Phalanx breaks armor so far.
Right, and this is pretty important because being charge moves, be very incentivized to drive impact them if they were just a single hit, right?
Yeah.
But because they break armor, the drive impact is not an option anymore, and you have to find other ways around them.
Nothing like an Unga move, Mir, that breaks armor. That's great. I can't wait.
Hey man, you have to, embrace it.
Now we see the level 2 super here being comboed into. We know the level 2 super is actually called Meteorite because in the audio leaks it says spans 2 for the Meteorite and absolutely destroys them.
Right. I wonder what kind of properties this super has, because normally level 2s have some kind of utility. And she seems to take to the skies, so might be some kind of anti-air, or maybe it just has a lot of damage or the opportunity to combo from difficult situations like this one, because we see a little bit of a wall splat. Manon sent tumbling and then she splats on the wall really low, just for a couple of frames. So maybe this super has got a good hitbox and fast start up to pick up.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be like, Adon's DP, the upper knee. Like, that's how I would imagine what it would look like on Whiff. All right, let's skip over to the Capcom TV footage, the newest footage from Marisa. So the first thing I want to talk about, Mir, is Marisa wearing her helmet during the VS screen walk-in. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's like those wrestlers that have, props and stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I love that VS screen. Okay, so during the match, we keep seeing this, looks like her jumping light kick. She does like this kind of a knee smash, quick knee smash.
Mm-hmm. We see a lot of jumping attacks, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we see a lot of jumping attacks in general. We also see her crouching heavy punch, and on punish counter, it actually knocks the opponent off.
Yeah, that is interesting. We see later on the footage that you can also charge this, and it probably gets armor. So it reminds me a lot of Abigail's crouching heavy punch in that sense.
Now, a little ahead, we also see Marisa do her standing heavy punch and standing heavy kick. These normals move Marisa quite far. Like, it's kind of similar to Luke almost.
Yeah, we know that standing heavy punch, she has a target combo where it's probably another heavy punch right after. And the standing heavy kick, we see it being cancelled, and it goes into the step kick, the quadriga.
Right, the standing heavy kick by itself doesn't have a lot of range, but because Marisa steps forward, it's pretty good. And this
and another thing, I guess, worth mentioning is that both the characters that are on screen are quite tall. So you'd be forgiven for thinking that it has less range, but against smaller characters, you might see that, you know, they cover all the ground.
I noticed the quadriga does a lot of damage.
It does, yeah. It's probably because it's difficult to combo into it, and maybe they want you to use it in neutral as well. Something like you can space and try to poke at the opponent. That would be devastating to get hit in neutral by just a lot of damage, knockdown.
Now, the next thing we see is Marisa doing her counter, her scutum again, but she's not actually countering. She just goes in the scutum stance and then all of a sudden does this like overhead attack.
Right, which makes me think that there are follow-ups to this stance almost, because in the original trailer we saw that she could go into that throw, right, that pancration.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if it is something that you can only do if you know, perfectly counter something with the guard point, or if it is just one of the many follow-ups that you have available.
It's too bad that Marisa is forced to attack from the counter, because this debunks my anti-zoning idea where Marisa could use her counter to just counter fireballs and then walk in on the opponent.
That's the other interesting part. If this is canned, like it's something that you do based on the version of the move that you do, then yeah, it would make it quite unsafe.
A little further, we see the scutum actually counter and armor the attack, and then Marisa hits. But when she hits, she doesn't do that overhead attack. She charges forward like she's protecting her face and just rams into the opponent.
Right, it looks like a body check of some kind, and we can see that she's armored successfully through something because of the red flash, which is different from what we saw in the original trailer again, where we saw that throw. So I'm curious if this will let you maybe push a mix-up for free, because it's very frame advantage, or maybe even pick up a combo and counter hit or punish counter.
Especially if Marisa has a command grab that we haven't seen yet. Now, right before the screen flash on JP, you can see for a split second that Marisa is doing the overhead looking attack, like just the startup of it, but without the counter. So what's going on here?
Right, that's why I was saying maybe it is a follow-up to the scutum, because you would get the special animation with the body shove if you armor successfully through something, right? While you wouldn't if you had just whiffed it. So maybe you have the opportunity to continue with these follow-ups or whatever they are in a situation like that, and JP would have been forced to guess whatever she might do after, right? Assuming especially if that attack is an overhead, this is where that low attack that we heard in the audio files might come hit opponents low, right? But obviously JP does a super and that just wins because it's invulnerable.
Yeah. Now here's the part where we see the crouching heavy punch become chargeable. We see two crouching heavy punches, and the second one you can see the charge for like a split second. This already looks like a good just normal anti-air for Marisa, but the fact that she can armor with it as well because she can charge it would make it really strong anti-air.
The way you can tell that something is being charged, on top of the fact that the startup is longer, is that the attack itself has a golden trail.
Right, and like the golden trail is like basically the armor itself too. It's like it has like a jewelry sound.
After all, one of Marisa's hobbies is being a jeweler, right? She wants to create beautiful trinkets.
Yeah, it's a nice extra touch to the animation to just let us know what she's doing. The last thing I want to talk about Marisa Mirror is her epic wind pose. It's amazing. She literally lifts the opponent up and then, holds them.
Just go into the sun. Definitely thought of the gladiator immediately when I saw that.
Who will help me carry him?
Except she doesn't need any help. She's strong.
He was a soldier of Rome. Honor him.
Yeah, that is a very, very good wind pose.
That's
as far as the ones that we've seen so far, this is definitely one of the better ones.
It's the best one of the game. It's so godlike.
Unfortunately, you don't get to see JP's win post because he lost.
Yeah, it's true. Well, there's nothing much I can add to Marisa except that she's perfect. I am obviously biased because, you know, Marisa is one of the characters I want to main. I'm still salty you told me about that down input though. That's gonna ruin my day.
That's an interesting one. I think it's definitely a getting used to thing, but it could be a balancing factor as well, because doing down inputs is difficult to do those move crouching. So maybe they don't want you to use as an anti-air or something. I don't know.
All right, let's wrap this up, guys. Let us know what you think about the new footage for JP and Marisa. JP's fireball that he can alter to hit overhead or low and the unblockable, and Marisa on her more charge attacks with the phalanx and her meteorite super. Both look really sick. Me and Mir will be back to cover the other two characters as well as additional Dulcim and Honda footage. We'll get those out for you guys before the holidays, so look forward to that. So till next time, guys, take care.
Bye bye.